Well, welcome to this screencast of Donne's The Sun Rising. Uh, a very interesting little poem of Donne's, an early poem, and a fairly outrageous one when we consider some of the metaphors and attitudes and tones that he uses throughout this poem. Now, at the top, we obviously see this poem's been represented with this type of picture, and essentially it is a poem about two lovers lying in bed, and the sun is rising, and the sun has entered the room, and that very normal type of happening is the impetus for this poem. So let's get into it. So Donne starts with a fairly outrageous attitude towards the sun, and the major conceit here, or the major metaphor, is the personification of the sun. The sun is reduced. It's not a huge celestial ball of fire. It's reduced to just a person who seems to have wandered into the room, and Donne is particularly scornful of this intrusion, and straight away starts to insult the sun. I mean, it says here, "Busy old fool, unruly sun, why dost thou thus, through windows and curtains, call on us?" So he says, "Why are you entering our room? Must to thy motions lovers' seasons run?" So what he's saying here, why do lovers who are ecstatically happy in their beds have to respond to you? Why are you so special? And then he really lets loose and says, "Saucy, pedantic wretch, go chide late schoolboys and sour apprentices. Go tell court's huntsmen that the king will ride. Call country ants to harvest officers." And it's that classic line, haven't you got something better to do? Why don't you just go and bother all these other people who have nothing better? They're not lying in bed with their lovers. They've just got boring things to do and they have to get out of bed. Why don't you just go and wake them up? Why bother us? And then he finishes this stanza by saying, "Love, all alike, no season knows nor clime." Right? So love doesn't understand seasons. It doesn't understand climate. It doesn't respond to hours, days, months, and he becomes very disparaging of these seasons and climates and hours and days. And he said, "Which are the rags of time." So he's saying these ways that we measure time and regulate our lives are just the rags of time. They are meaningless to us. Love is above this. Love is far more important. All right, so we get on to stanza two, and Donne changes his tone here slightly, and he becomes sarcastic, and he becomes quite arrogant. And I suppose in our popular parlance we'd call it talking it up. Right? He starts to make fun of the sun and talk up his own powers and the great power of his lover who's lying in the bed beside him. So let's get started. So first of all, he says, he's talking to the sun, again, still personified. "Thy beam so reverend and strong, why shouldst thou think?" And in other words, he's saying, you think that you're so big and strong and wonderful, but I could eclipse and cloud them with a wink. So in other words, I could put you in the shade with a wink if I wanted to. I'm far more powerful than you. Why? Because I'm a lover. I'm in love and I'm in my bed with my lover, and that is everything that matters. And I am far more powerful than any type of celestial ball that's sending light into our room. And he says, "But I won't do that, but that I would not lose her sight so long." So in other words, I could eclipse you, sun, but to do so would mean that I would have to go and leave leave my lover by herself for a short period of time, and I can't do that. I want to spend my entire life looking at my girl in bed. So, in other words, he really is talking it up and talking big at the moment, isn't he? And then he goes on and he says, "If her eyes have not blinded thine," so in other words, he's now telling the sun what to do. "If my lover's eyes have not blinded you, sun, look, and tomorrow late tell me." So in other words, go around the world another time and tell me these things, whether both the Indias of spice and mine, so the great wealth of all the world in that English perspective, be where thou leftst them, or lie there here with me. So he's saying, son, go around the world, look at all the great wealth of the world, and then come back and tell me where you think the greatest wealth lies. And I'm sure you will know then that the greatest wealth lies next to me in my bed. Ask for those kings who thou sawest yesterday, and thou shalt hear all in one bed lay. And what he means by that is, ask for all the kings of the world, the power and the wealth and the majesty of the world, which is represented by the kings. Ask where they are, and you will hear, what you will be told is that the great majesty and wealth of the world will be here in my bed. Right? So he really is laying it on thick now, isn't he? You know, he's comparing his lover to all the world and all the power and all the wealth in it, and he's saying that his lover is greater than all these things. And then he takes it even a step further in stanza 3, and he says, she's all states and all princes, I nothing else is. All right, so basically he's reducing the rest of the world to nothing, and he's saying this is all that really matters in the entire world. And he continues, princes do but play us compared to this. All honours mimic, all wealth alchemy. Right, so we've got what he would call sort of representation. You know, to play us. Right, so that's false. To mimic, and alchemy, which is, you know, a type of magic, or you know, it's sort of a circus trick, alchemy. So he's saying princes, honour and wealth are just play acting and magic compared to the true great integrity of our love, which is lying here next to me. None of this other wealth and honour and majesty matters compared to my lover. And then the poem changes reasonably significantly, and he actually tries to reconcile a little bit with the sun, although quite arrogantly. And he speaks directly to the sun and says, thou, son, art half as happy as we. So he's saying, well, you can't be as happy as we are, because we're in love and we're in bed, but you can be half as happy as us, and this is why. In that the world's contracted thus. And he's saying, well, because the world has now contracted, or the only thing that matters in the world has contracted down into our bedroom. He's saying, he's calling the sun old. He's saying, thine age asks ease. So, you know, your life's pretty hard, son. You know, you've been around for a long time. You're very old, and you've got to travel around the world every single day. He said, it's much better this way. Since thy duties be to warm the world, that's done in warming us. And he said, well, it's much easier now. All you have to do is warm us in our bedroom. At the beginning of the poem, he was saying, get out of the room because you're annoying us. Now, he's being a little bit more conciliatory and saying, all you really got to do in the future is just warm us a bit. And that's the world. Nothing really else matters. Shine here to us, and thou art everywhere. This bed thy centre is, these walls thy sphere. And here we get to this idea of this travelling around the world, and it's quite a pre-enlightenment idea that the Earth was the centre of the universe, and the sun travelled around this perfect sphere in the Earth. So we sort of take from this that the sphere that the sun has got to travel around, which we don't obviously know not to be true now because the Earth goes around the sun. But Donne is a believer that the sun travels around the Earth. And he's saying, well, you don't have to do that anymore. All you have to do is shine into our bedroom. You just got to travel around us because we are the perfect world. The sphere of our bedroom, the perfection of our bedroom, represented in that shape of the sphere, is all that is really needed. All right. So, and that is The Sun Rising, a fairly extravagant poem by Donne, where he really does become quite quite bombastic and quite arrogant and quite insulting at times. But obviously, we see that it's done with tongue in cheek, and we see there's a certain amount of humour here. But he really is exploring the depth of feeling that he has for his lover, and the greatness of that human feeling to be in love. And he does it through this conceit of reducing the sun down to a person who is intruded into the perfection of his bedroom. All right. The Sun Rising. Thank you very much.